Hey guys, Nick here, and this is a bit of a different, more unscripted video, but today I wanted to go over two of the art videos that I put out in the past year, because these two projects were actually pretty big, the Metal Virus project and the Sonic Forces project. These were two pretty big Nick the Wolf stories, and I wanted to go over them essentially, and I did, and this was a ton of fun to make. So I hope you enjoy the behind the scenes. Starting with behind the scenes of Nick the Wolf during the Metal Virus. Firstly, I wanted to go over these arts at the beginning. Now, these arts are actually meant to be more like cover arts, like for a comic book. As you can see with this one, the Metal Virus is coming off of Nick the Wolf and going up here, which is supposedly to Sonic and Silver. I know it's not necessarily accurate, but a lot of cover arts are kind of inaccurate to the story, and I wanted to go with that. And also, backgrounds were a pain. I want to mention this. This is all marker, because back then, I was still doing traditional art rather than digital art, and now I do pretty much exclusively digital art. So this was actually a bit of a nightmare to make, because I just used marker for the background, like the background sky. Now I think I've gotten a lot better at this. So, yeah. Next up, I wanted to go over the design. Now, this is a more beta-tested design, where you see there's no streak, there's no, grays in here. But we can see there's eye bags, his tech is actually turned off, and right here you can see that his shirt is torn, and his shoes are damaged. It's pretty interesting. And not only that, his gloves are damaged too. I find that the design I did for this was pretty interesting, especially the poncho, because the poncho seems to just be made out of whatever he could find laying around, and the stitch job isn't actually that great either. And one other thing is, I think I get into it later. I'll get to it later then. You can see that he's gotten more gray hair since earlier for the 2 days later section, meaning the stress is really starting to get to him. And then he's sniffing around the city because he's a dog, and dogs do that. Next is this eye thing. So, if you guys look closely at most of the videos, you can actually see Nick the Wolf's eye, one of his eyes are closed a lot more than the other. Now, in the Metal Virus video, I think I did this wrong the entire video, because it's actually supposed to be on his right eye, which is this one, not his left eye. So, I made a mistake, but it's intentional and it's not intentional. There's the intentional part of it, which is his eye being more closed, and the unintentional part, which is it's on the wrong eye. So, oops. Next, this is a fun fact, Nick the Wolf doesn't sleep on his back. He sleeps on his side, or he curls up into a little ball, because he wants to be adorable. Next up is this cover art that I did, which shows Whisper in the sky, some clouds, and the Metal Virus seemingly taking over the world. I don't know where I was going with this one, honestly, but it felt pretty cool. And we can also see the first indication of the gray hair was put in here, and this was the first time I think I drew him in this, because I did all the cover arts first. So I think this was the first time I drew him in this finalized version of the outfit. Next is this. So we see the shield, we see everything, but then we look at Whisper over here, and we see that her face is a bunch of squigglies. Now, because this section here was actually a dream flashback, it's all from his perspective. So he didn't look at her, he has no idea what Whisper looks like. Hence, her face is actually blacked out. He doesn't know what she looks like. Now he's gotten some sleep. His eye bags are gone. Did I do this one right? Yeah, I did. I did his eyes right this time. Right? No, this is his right. Yeah. Yeah, this is still this is still wrong because it's supposed to be over. Okay, for those wondering, his right eye is supposed to be more closed. His right, not ours. This is his left. Yeah. Now, this section. I felt a little weird about this, that he, like, tried to slap her hand away. But he hates physical contact, and I wanted to express that. Now, this face, I explicitly based it off of, because this had come out recently, the Shattered Diamonds came out recently, and I freaking loved this face, and I wanted to put it in here. So yeah, that was just a fun little thing. Next up is Cyan. Whisper is going to be returning in future storylines, and Cyan is, like, because he teams up with Tangle and Whisper and forms his own team with them. And Cyan attaches to Nick the Wolf, and I find it very fun. Now for this cover art. This one is kind of supposed to be like one of the issue 24 arts. I don't know whose art it was, but it's supposed to kind of be like the issue 24 art, where it kind of splits Sonic from, like, one side, which is still good, and the other side, which has become the Metal Virus. And I also kind of wanted to, I included this because I also kind of wanted to show off Zombot Nick. Like, he looks kind of weird, in my opinion, but I found this interesting. It turns his U-neck into more of a V-neck. It gives him some spikies everywhere. And then we have just this. So yeah, it's just an art that I wanted to analyze a little bit more. And then finally this art, not much happened in the third story, but in this art, we see Tangle patting him on the head as Nick the Wolf says that he wants to be patted on the head a little bit more, rather than hugged. And the sun is setting behind them. Now, like, there's not a lot to talk about with this one, besides it looks like his hair is her tail hand or whatever. I find this interesting. Also, like any good Arrowace person, Nick the Wolf loves garlic bread. Not necessarily good Arrowace person, but like any Arrowace person in general. He loves his garlic bread. Next, you can see in this scene, he's all like squiggly in certain areas. That is his, it's an ability, kind of like a spidey sense, I guess. I call it Ultra Sense because, I don't know, I just felt like that made more sense. It essentially, goes into him, like, I don't know how it works necessarily, but he just has like the sixth sense that tells him when something's going down. So he's feeling the Metal Virus about to come and just feels it. And then finally this. So I do plan on doing more IDW stories for Nick the Wolf, and this is the design I want to go with. I either want to go with this design or a design that has this in a different shade of brown, as like kind of as if he's trying to dye over it. So yeah, I want to do some more IDW extra storylines for like the volumes. But yeah, anything that happens after the Metal Virus, this is the design I'm going to use. Next up is the Sonic Forces video. Sonic Forces Episode Nick. And I want to start off with calling it Episode Nick. Why did I do this? So Sonic Forces had the episode Shadow storyline, so I went with Episode Nick because Nick the Wolf. I thought it felt nice to go with that. Next, I didn't keep perfect track of it for the Metal Virus one, but I drew around 59 pieces of art specifically for this video. And it's actually a few more than that, not because that's just counting what I made for the video. Now this took me a long time, and I tracked how long it took. And for those of you who know Stampy, it took me from the beginning of his Quest series, episode 1 of Quest to Kill the Ender Dragon, to episode 12 of Quest to Kill the Wither. which is around, I have it here, 103 20-minute episodes. That is a long time. I can't figure out how long that actually is. And that's just for the art, by the way. And I started working on this on July 18th, the same day that The Odd Ones Out posted his first Nuzlocke video. And I finished on August 28th or 29th, depending on how you see it. Because I finished it at like 12:18 at midnight. 12:18, it was the 29th, technically, but it just became the 29th. So I don't know how y'all want to interpret that. It was too much of a gray area for me. Next up, all of the gameplay screenshots were gathered by me. And for those wondering how I got these without streaming, I got the game on Steam because they were doing their summer sale. And something with the Steam summer sale that I didn't know was just how much they take off their games. As a matter of fact, today they're doing their autumn sale, and I got 85% off a $60 game and got it for like $8, which was incredible because I actually want to do a Let's Play on that game. That might come out sooner than later, but anyway. All of the screenshots, I did a playthrough. I actually 100%ed the game on my computer and gathered all of the screenshots during the course of just making the video. Next, this before the sun falls marker. I essentially, first of all, I had to figure out an accurate timeline that this took place over because I wanted the Sonic Forces project to be over the course of the main story of the game, to sort of explain why he wasn't there. Now, I had the idea for the sun falls because I was like, what do I call this? Like Starfall Day or the sun falls? I think that sounds pretty cool. And then I realized that's actually what happens in the game. I was like, Days Before the Sun Falls feels pretty cool. And then I was like, I feel like this fits in very well. Because the afterthought was the fact that Infinite drops the sun on the Resistance, not the before thought. Now, the plan was to make it so that every day Nick the Wolf would do a level and then a boss. Hence, we had a level and boss for each day. Yeah, the fact that Infinite dropping the sun on the Resistance was an afterthought of this is really funny. And I feel like that happens with a lot of works that people do. They, like, read their stuff and then they're like, huh, that was a really interesting thing that I didn't think of. Anyway, Crimson's design. Crimson was originally designed in Sonic Forces. I changed it up and made a bit of a different design. And actually, so this is a laser on his hand. And the fact that he put the Shadow Sapphire on his right, or his left, shows that he's actually, he's left-handed. Also, this design took not too long compared to, next up, Sarah's design, who I had 2 attempts at this. And I forgot to include one of them in this video. I might throw it on the community tab at some point, but yeah. Groove in the ears means she's seen some action. Oh, and Sarah's a cat, by the way. She's just a cat, unlike Crimson, who is like more of a poodle. Sarah's just a cat. I made her very blue, and I had her. I had the idea from a Sellsword Arts video where they had like magnets to attach swords to their belts, and I was like, oh, that's cool. So yeah, but now I want to show you guys their early beta designs. This is what Sarah was going to look like, and this is what Crimson was going to look like. As you can see, I changed it up a bit. And it's really cool to see designs change like this, because sometimes they just, I don't know, it just feels good to have a design really change a lot. I don't know, something about it's just cool. Next up is this. I bring it up in the video in a little text bubble I threw over here at some points, because this level was weird. It goes from the forest is on fire to Casino Forest to Aqua Road. And it made very little sense to me. So I was like, this would explain how all the fires get put out and how they take that back the forest a little bit. Because I remember Char 5's Sonic Forces rewrite talked about how it didn't really feel like you were taking back the world. It more felt like you were just running errands, and then boom, that part of the world was taken back. Next up was this. It appears, I didn't know this at the time, but it appears that Sarah was just training with her new abilities that she got from the Shadow Sapphire on the trees, just in the area. Like, Nick the Wolf just kind of showed up. Next is the relationship between Nick the Wolf and Shadow. These two hate each other. They don't like each other that much. Yeah, but also, I was gonna include something here. I was gonna mix my music between Undefeatable and All Hail Shadow, and then I didn't. Because I was like, this is gonna take a very long time. I need to get this done fast. Next up, this bit. I wanted this to feel kind of like a comic book. And I realized during the recording, I should have made this text white. My bad. Next up is this. Random side character. This has nothing to do with Surge. I know she kind of looks like Surge. I based her design on Surge. She is a Tenric. She is not Surge. But also, I want to talk about, like, the wounds she has. Like, she got her arm and a bit of her face burnt because a illusion of her partner essentially came in and used a burst wispin on her. So yeah, it's kind of just, I wanted to show off how brutal this could be. Not necessarily how brutal this could be, but just how brutal, like, some of the injuries that the Resistance took were. Next is this Zavok thing. I know I could have done the art a little bit better. I could have included more in the background. But I also want to talk about this wasn't a boss. It was just a quick time event and why I did that, which was essentially I didn't want to do something really insane for it because I wanted to do the Sarah boss fight as well. So I just kind of did this to really quickly go through it. Plus, it couldn't be that big of a fight. And then you might be thinking, well, Nick, why did not do Metal Overlord? It would make a lot more sense for this. He's a lot smaller, and it would make a lot more sense that Sonic wouldn't see him. I didn't want to, because in the IDW comics, I couldn't include anything from the IDW comics or from Sonic Forces itself, which meant no Blaze, and I decided no Neo Metal Sonic, because it didn't make a lot of sense, because he was just in the very next story after this game, was Neo Metal as the villain. So I didn't really appreciate that for this, but I went with Giant Zavok instead. Next was Chaos Shields. This is a thing he'll always be able to do now. He is always going to be able to do this, and he will do it again and again and again in the future. And it was also something that he didn't have the ability to do before, and now it's like he's got 2 Chaos Shields. Finally, this took 3 hours. I don't know how this took 3 hours, but it did. And it was actually one of my favorite pieces that I made throughout the entire video. And that's about it. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, remember to like, comment, subscribe, turn on notifications, share this video with everyone you know and love. If you haven't, I recommend checking out these videos, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!